Welcome, welcome. So I'm just gonna recap yesterday's two games. Let's have a look. My first game was against an unrated player. I mean, it was a little kid and he was so cute. He was so adorable. But yeah, this is my first game, but I think my second one is very, very, very exciting. So let's have a quick look at this first game. So, oh wait, I'm with the black pieces. Okay, I'm playing against this little 10-year-old kid from Switzerland, and he's so cute. His dad's there supporting him. It's it's very wholesome. But I'm like, he's unrated. He could be a secret GM in training, so I can't underestimate him. But this game, I was hoping that it would go well and I get a nice quick win in the morning and then be able to really fight against a rated player in the afternoon. So we had e4, c5, and then my opponent goes for f4. And this is f4 is considered to be a little bit inaccurate. You should be playing like knight c3 first. If you're wanting to go for the Grand Prix attack, just because it leaves this e4 pawn quite weak. And yeah, so it's considered to be not so good, but it's a perfectly fine opening and a lot of people play it. Here I just go for knight c6, decide to bring my knight out. And in this game, I just try to play it normal principled stuff and yeah, not do anything crazy. My opponent goes for knight f3, bringing their knight out, and I go for g6, and I just want to fianchetto my bishop and just put a little bit of pressure once I get my bishop out to g7, just pressuring down this diagonal because I think it's going to be nice there. My opponent goes for c3, sort of combining some openings, like some Alapin ideas also with Grand Prix attack. There's nothing too wrong with this so far, but it seems like he's maybe not so familiar with theory here, but that's okay. I mean, black is meant to play something like d5 here. I guess d5, I know that d5 in response to f4 initially is quite strong, but I get annoyed with knight c3 stuff. So I guess I should definitely be playing d5 here, attacking the center, bring my queen in, because now he's played c3, he can't put a knight here. So maybe that would be an improvement on this opening. I just go bishop g7, and he brings his bishop to c4. And this is still all okay. I go for e6 because I want to just neutralize this bishop. If my opponent wants to start up some ideas with bringing his knight into g5, playing f5, trying to attack me on this f7 square, I decide that I just want to push e6 and sort of block this bishop off this diagonal. Then he goes queen b3, which immediately is something not so accurate. This queen doesn't really belong on b3 just because it's really not doing anything over here. That's the problem. It's not really doing anything over here. This attack, well, it's firing at nothing really because my pawn structure means that these pawns are strong here. They're not weak and they can't be easily targeted. And I can play knight a5 whenever I want just to pick up the bishop pair quite early in the opening, which would be nice for me. I decide to go for a6 because I do have some ideas. Okay, if my opponent doesn't see it, I have an idea like this of playing knight a5. And then if my opponent tries to defend their bishop with queen here, then I just have b5. So that was what I was trying to set up, but I also thought a6 was a good move in itself. But yeah, here they just have to let go of the bishop and try and take on c5. So I was trying to set up a little trap for my opponent. He plays a4 here, which does defend this. After knight a5 and queen moves, b5 is not going to be the fork anymore. Like the queen can now come back to a2 and they're still defending. I decide to go for knight here still. The queen goes back and then I just decide I'm going to grab the bishop pair. Then I go for queen c7, which apparently is not so accurate. So yeah, the problem is they can start putting pressure on me here with a move like d4. And I was thinking, actually, queen c7 was not so good. I was, again, trying to be tricky and set up some trap, but it really wasn't ever working. Like, if they castle here, b5, and then if they take, there was a double attack. See, this was the kind of traps that I was trying to set up. Double attack, attacking the queen and the rook. So these were the kinds of tactics I was hoping for. But, chess should be about playing the best moves and not too much hope. So yeah, d4 would have been quite strong here because I can't take here because my queen ends up hanging over here. That would be a very sad way to lose the game. And then I can defend with something like d6 or b6. But it does mean that they get to chip away at my pawns a little bit. Okay. So here he plays d3 instead, because here with my queen I am also attacking this pawn here. I forgot to mention that. So here I'm developing this with not only the threat of b5 but also attacking this pawn, but d4 solves all those problems all at once and puts the pressure on me, makes me have to defend here, because now the pawn is defended by the bishop. So that's why d4 is good. Instead, my opponent goes for d3 because I do want to defend f4, and then I decide to bring my knight to e7 because I want to play d5 at some point, pushing forward and trading off in the center. He plays b4 now, and yeah, I think like if he was gonna push a pawn, if he was gonna push one of these pawns to put pressure on my queen, I feel like it had to be the d pawn. I mean, this is a fine move, but the problem is my bishop's just becoming really strong along this diagonal. Like even though our engine thinks it's okay, my bishop's becoming quite strong and it's hard for my opponent now. So I play d6 defending, and they could just trade off here and close off the c file, and maybe this is, you know, quite okay for my opponent. They decide to go for a5, which is a mistake. The problem is now they're closing things off and they're losing control of this b5 square a little bit. So now I have a nice easy move with bishop d7. And the plan is to reroute my bishop over here to b5. That's the plan. Trying to put pressure here, and the queen can't move anywhere where it defends this d3 pawn. So yeah, if for example, if castles, bishop here, the queen can't go to any square where it's going to defend on d3, and then I'm also going to be attacking this pawn at e4, this rook as well. So that's the threat here. I mean, my opponent does a good job of recognizing the threats though. So yeah, I go bishop d7, and he moves his queen away because he sees the problem. And now I still do have bishop e5 here, and yeah, they can't push forward because then their rook hangs here over on a1. And it's actually hard for them to defend anything, because if they go queen c2 here, I'm taking on b4. And then I'm just taking a pawn here, so that's nice. And if they try to defend with anything else, I don't say, like, yeah, same thing here of queen d1. I can take over here, so the only way they can defend is to move the king. And this is actually the third best engine move, but you know, you see the king on d2 and you're probably not very happy if you've got your king on d2. I think my opponent was just thinking, I don't want to lose a pawn, so I'm going to defend it with the king here. Which really is the only way that you cannot lose a pawn. But I think in this situation, you just probably got to give up the pawn, try and get castled, and try and, you know, untangle your position a little bit. So here I have a nice move with c4, pushing forward here, attacking the queen, and also attacking this pawn here, which is near to the king, which is nice. So we trade off, and then I attack the queen like this, and they go back to c2. Now the best move here for black is just a castle, but I want to keep my attack on. I want to go back here because I'm anticipating something like knight a3, and I want to go for something like d5, pushing forward, and maybe bringing my rook over to c8. So once this knight wants to move away and attack my bishop, I can bring my rook in and target this pawn here, because at the moment the knight's defending c3. So I go back to b5 here, opening up the c file. Then he goes bishop b2, nice move, just defending the pawn here. I bring my rook over to c8, and then I'm attacking a lot, and he goes knight a3 here, and here I go for the sneaky move, d5, and I think I do a little psychological trick on my opponent here, because I just start staring at the bishop on b5. I start staring at the bishop on b5 like, ooh, it would be really good if they took that piece over there. Oh, let me hydrate. So yeah, here I play d5, and yeah, I'm just staring at this bishop here on b5 like, yeah, you want to take that bishop? You want that bishop pair? You want it? And my opponent falls for the trap, and they take on b5, and then I take over here on f4, and he moves the king. I grab the knight back, and then he pushes forward with e5, but I have a nice move here. I have a nice move here with d4, because if they're taking here, well, then I'm taking like this and winning. everything. So yeah, they try to defend for a little bit longer. They play bishop e1, attacking my queen, trying to get it out of his business. I just move over to queen g4, and now there's a lot of threats here. I'm attacking this. I'm also threatening to take up here, attacking the queen. So this is looking really good. He goes bishop d2, just trying to defend. I take here, and yeah, here my opponent resigns, because the problem is they can't go here because of my pawn. If they go forward, I'm taking here. And it should be a mate here somewhere. Oh yeah, it's just mate here. And obviously, if they're moving back here, I can just grab this rook here. I mean, I could even take here first. I mean, I can take all the pieces. I can take them all, it's great. So yeah, here my opponent resigns, and I win the first game of the day. But yes, my opponent is unrated. So like this wasn't like the craziest game ever. I chatted with my opponent after the game. You know, he was very excited for this tournament, and he's quite new to chess. And he was having quite a good tournament so far. I think he had a draw with 1500. Like he was doing quite well. So yeah, it felt like he was giving a good try, honestly. Even though he was blundering things, he was having a good recognition of what I was trying to do on each move, like recognizing threats, although he did miss queen f4. But apart from that, my opponent played well. Now, in the next round, I get paired against a 2100. I go straight from the, from the little unrated opponents right up to the big guns. I'm playing against a 2100 beating. So yeah, this is a very exciting game. I have the white pieces as well, so I'm feeling quite hopeful about this one. I'm trying to decide what to play. I see he plays some G6 kind of setups. Yeah, this was a very exciting game for me. I mean, I was thinking if I win this game, I'm going to be well over 1600 FIDE by the end of this tournament. So I was really hopeful for this one, and I did some preparation, but he didn't play the move order I was expecting, but I still got into a really comfortable position, I think, from the opening. And the good thing about this game is, although I played some inaccuracies, I had the advantage throughout the entire game. So I was never losing, and it was always a little better for me. So that was cool. Yo! So I'm gonna recap this one for you guys. I think this is a really exciting game. So I hope you guys enjoy it. All right, let's go. So I have the white pieces here against 2100 ELO, and I play e4. I was considering to play knight of 3 or something like I played in the previous rounds, but I decided when I looked at my opponent's opening repertoire online, I was like, I want to play e4 for this one. I want to play like aggressive chess, because he goes for like g6 setups, which I like my setup against that. So he goes for c5 here, going for the Sicilian move order. Sometimes he plays g6 first, which allows you to play d4 and then playing c5 after that. Like, the move order that I'd seen that he plays online is like this one, bishop g6, and then after knight c3, then going for this. To which, in this line, I would probably take over here, and after takes, just go for, here. I was giving myself 2 moves in a row. Go for queen here, which attacks the rook, and then this forces knight here, go for queen b4, and after queen c7, then just something like bishop d3, defending the pawn, or knight f3. I mean, my queen already defends. So that was the opening that I was thinking of going for if my opponent played that move order, but they played a different move order. I played knight f3 here, going for the open Sicilian, and he plays g6, and I play c4 here, just trying to set up the Maroczy bind, which I really like. I really love playing the Maroczy bind in over the board games, because I feel like it limits a lot of your opponent's counterplay, and it doesn't get you into like super double-edged positions. It's more just like you have a comfortable position and your opponent is suffocating a little bit. So I really like the positions coming out of the Maroczy bind. If you guys haven't tried this before against the accelerated dragon, hyper accelerated dragon, all these kinds of openings, it's awesome. Okay, so he goes bishop g7 here, and I play d4, just trying to trade off the pawns in the center and get my knight onto d4, just getting this open position. So we trade off here in the middle, and then he plays knight c6, attacking my knight twice, and I go for bishop e3. Then he goes knight f6, attacking my pawn at e4. I defend it with knight c3. He castles, and then I play bishop e2. And usually the setup with this is just playing something like f3, castling, queen d2, and bring the rooks just to the middle of the board. So it's nice and comfortable. You play b3 at some point, and the ideas are usually to jump a knight into d5, but not too soon. Making sure you're not trading off too quickly, like you want to avoid trades too early in the game, and either go for a c5 or e5 push, whereas your opponent is playing for a break with f5. And sometimes there's b5 ideas here with some sacrifices and stuff. Here I play bishop e2, and he plays d6. And this is basically just opening up his bishop here. I like to play f3 here because I like to avoid any knight g4 stuff. So I go for f3, and here he plays queen b6. And this move does look a little scary if you've never seen this before. I mean, you're looking like, oh my gosh, Okay, so if I play some move where I'm going, okay, they're attacking b2. This looks scary. They're attacking b2, and they're threatening to attack both of these pieces at once. So maybe you go b3. Well, then there's tactics like knight takes on e4, and suddenly there's 3 attackers on this piece in the middle. This knight on c3 is crying. It's very scary. So it looks very scary if you've never seen this before. But here I just have the move knight takes c6, and if they take here on e3, then I have the in-between move of knight takes c7 check, and after the king moves over here, I'll just take the bishop on c8. Rook takes, and then play something like queen d2 and just try and trade off the queens. So, okay, I don't know what's going on with my mouse there. So, yeah, this is quite comfortable for white here. And if they're taking on b2 as well, we have, this is just like completely winning because we've taken the knight here, and then we can check them and then just bring our rook over to c1, and we're defending everything, and we're happy as Larry. So yeah, this is not as scary as it looks. So I just take on c6 here, and he has to take back with the queen. And here white has a little bit of an advantage here. Now the queen is a little bit misplaced here on c6 because, well, here I'm going to be quite well defended down the c-file, and also my plans are going to be to open up the c-file at some point. So if I can bring a rook over to c1 and then try and play something like knight d5 at some point to try and open up the c-file, we're going to gain a tempo on the queen and get control of the open c-file. Also over here, there's no squares that the queen can really go where it's attacking anything. So yeah, it's not really a good place for the queen to be. Okay, so I play queen d2 here, and this holds in this pawn on b2, defends the knight on c3 from any tactics with knight e4, and this kind of attack down here. And also threatens to, at some point, if I want to trade off this bishop on h6. Although, in these kind of positions, usually as white, you want to keep your dark square bishop, because even though this might be your opponent's good bishop over here, your dark square bishop is also your good bishop, and your light square bishop is stuck behind all your pawns. So basically you're wanting to trade off this light square bishop at some point. Then he plays bishop e6 here, which, I mean, bishop e6 is a perfectly fine move, but the problem with this is it sort of blocks them off from pushing anything at any point. And really, this pawn here on c4, it's not a weakness, it's really easily defended with b3. So I just play b3 here. Then he plays knight d7, which is a nice move. This move, firstly, it opens up their bishop, and also recognizes that on f6, this knight doesn't really have any good squares to move forward to. So he wants to reroute it to a square like c5 or e5, where it does have nice control over the middle of the board, rather than just like staring at controlled squares. So yeah, now his bishop is nice and open as well. So here I decide that I just want to get castled, and yeah, this is still pretty equal here. White does have an advantage, but it's nothing too crazy yet. It's more just like a little bit of a positional advantage. He reroutes his knight to c5, and I just continue improving my pieces by bringing my rooks to the middle of the board by playing rook c1. And there's no rush to trade anything off because I'm pretty comfortable here. I just want to keep improving my pieces, like just playing developing moves, getting all my pieces to the best squares possible, and effectively boring my opponent to death. My opponent here plays rook e8, which, it's like, maybe it's in anticipation of, okay, maybe someday he wants to move his bishop and he doesn't want knight d5 to come with the tempo, threatening the fork. Maybe that's the plan. Although here, my opponent's really, like, their only chance here their only pawn break is f5, and you probably want your rook supporting that. So that's maybe why rook e8 is maybe not the best plan, because you want to play f5 at some point and break like that, and you want to have your pieces supporting it and attack down this way. Okay, but you know, it's still okay. I just moved my king over to h1, moving it out of the way, so you know, it's off this diagonal here. And then he plays h5 here. After this, I still have like a lot of time on my clock. I've only used like 10 minutes of my time, so I feel like I'm playing quite fast at this moment, but I have a big thought soon. I have a big thought, a big think. Okay, so next I decide to just bring my rook to the middle of the board. Apparently I can play b4 here, so I was thinking they just go knight a4 though, and maybe I can play c5. Is that the thing? Oh no, knight b5 here. Okay, I play this kind of idea a couple moves later, but I decide that I just want to keep developing, so I bring my rook to the middle, but maybe it's a little too slow here. Okay, so he brings his other rook to c8 and just wants to line everything up over here. So now I see a plan in this position, and I go for knight b5. And here I'm threatening to take on a7 with the fork, which obviously my opponent's going to see. But this is still a very complicated position. This is really complicated. So here my opponent can either go for queen a6, to which I can go b4, and then after knight d7, start pushing forward. I can even just take here. I can even just take here actually, and then I can come back to b5. So my opponent plays rook a8 instead, because the idea is now that after b4, knight d7, and takes here, he can actually just sacrifice the rook on a7, takes, and play b6. And then my bishop's actually trapped here, and I was thinking after c5, takes, and takes here with the knight, because the problem is, otherwise we have things, if takes here, we have things like rook b1 and stuff, so takes with the knight. If I'm taking here, I don't know, this looked very unclear to me, so it was kind of, I was calculating this for a long time, whether I should take, but I was getting very unsure after taking and b6. Well, queen a6 was the thing that I calculated, but it didn't look so scary to me, because I felt like, well, I can just come back here, and then if they're taking down here, I just have an easy move with knight c7. And yeah, so this was something that I was like, okay, if queen a6 here, I have no problems. But the problem was if they were sacrificing here and then playing b6, and that was really hard to calculate. Oh no! Ah! Wait, spoilers. No! Ah! So after rook a8, I decide to go for b4, kicking the knight away, and then I'm thinking for a long time, do I take here? And I decide to go for, this is the third best engine move, by the way, like engine calls a mistake, but it's third best engine move. I decide to go for a move with f4, and this is kind of a strange idea, but it's basically like they can't take here because of knight here, and also I have plans of playing f5, trading off, and trying to take on h5. So I thought this was interesting just because I couldn't quite calculate this knight takes a7 with b6 and everything. I was a little bit worried about how that was looking in the end for me. So I decided to go for f4. But the problem was what he played, which was bishop g4. And, you know, here I wasn't actually too upset about it because I get to trade off my bad bishop, as I mentioned before. This is my bishop that I do want to trade off. You know, it does get rid of the bishop, get rid of some of the threats that I had. Like I had threats of, okay, not only knight c7, but like bishop f3 here. This is also what opens up bishop f3 and this kind of idea as well. So now I can't play this anymore because he's trading off the bishops. So yeah, but it does give us a double plots. It's still a little better for white, so I don't have any problems. And I decide to just go for queen d5 here and trade, because what I'm thinking is I still have threats on this square and I have threats of the fork still, so I'm happy to trade off here. So I takes, and then I go for knight c7, forking, and he goes for the best continuation. This is really the only way to continue. You have to grab this pawn over here and give up the exchange. I mean, there's no way to keep the exchange because either rook that you're moving, I'm taking the other one. So you have to take the pawn. I take here, and he takes back. And basically now my plan here in the endgame is that I want to grab this pawn at some point and create a passed pawn on the b file and push it forward, eventually have my bishop supporting it somehow or something. So I just want to create a passer on this file. So I decided to go for a4 here. Rook d3 was maybe a better preparing move, because a4 gets into some stuff with knight c3, but they're both okay. So I play a4 here, and then my opponent goes for rook b8, attacking the pawn, and then I have just b5 here, pushing forward, and he goes for knight c3. And yeah, there was this line that I was calculating here with this and rook b7, and I was thinking of playing b6, but I didn't like how that looked because my bishop got stuck in, and they had some ideas of, okay, for example, b6, if knight takes, he could even just take on a4. But if knight takes d1, which is what I calculated, they had something like this, and they could easily go and attack this pawn. So I wasn't really able to make it work. So, but taking was apparently the best way to go. So after here, I should have just brought my bishop back to f2, and then after takes, it's a slight advantage for white. So yeah, it was a little complicated, but I played a move that was equally good with rook d3 here, with the idea that if they're taking on a4, I have rook a3. But apparently this is not a good move. This is the second best move, but somehow it's not so good. Now apparently I'm meant to take here, which is better, but I was thinking, okay, well now they can just defend easily like this. But I guess now I go for rook here, and okay, here, and then I'm taking here, and we basically get a better version of what I ended up playing. But yeah, it was really complicated. This endgame was surprisingly complicated for how few pieces were on the board, but I definitely made some mistakes here. So I played rook a3, attacking the knight immediately. And obviously they don't have this tactic because I take here and I end up a piece, even though it looks like a little bit of a scary square to put my rook on. He takes here on b5, and after we trade, the knight goes to b2, which is a mistake. And now I apparently have a win with the rook here. And I was looking at this move. Oh, why is this? Okay, when the engine is like saying that rook b3 is plus 3.6, but then I actually play the move and it's like, it was like +1. Okay. Well, at least the engine is confused as well, not just me. So I decide here just to take here on rook a7, but this is still a +2 advantage, so it's really, even though it might have been a miss, I'm okay with it. He takes here on b5, and then I grab a pawn. Again, another miss. Apparently, I was meant to give a check first. And the good thing about this is that there's never really any back rank threats because my rook can always come back to c1 if they're checking me here. So here, then take here is going to be strong because we're attacking f7 as well. So yeah, instead I play this and he goes for bishop f6, and I decide that I just want to win the d6 pawn because I felt like if I win d6 then I'm going to be happy. He goes rook d5 here, another mistake. There's so many mistakes here, and it's a mistake because of the move that I played, but I really didn't understand like why my move was so good. A g3. And g3, basically the idea is that now I can bring my king to g2, there's no more back rank threats, I solidify the pawns here, there's no chances of them, setting up some sacrifice with g3, weakening my pawns over here. So yeah, it gave me some space for my king to go. He then puts his knight on d1, and here I decide to go bishop b6. Another mistake, but still I have the advantage, so it can't be that bad. My idea here is that I want to reroute over this way and I want to win this pawn because the bishop can't defend easily. He goes for knight c3 here, and now this knight can come back to b5 if I'm playing something like this as well. So, it's still complicated here. So here I play rook e1 and I want to bring my rook into the game. I want to get out here. He goes for rook d2, which is again not so good. And here I play bishop a5, and I have some really nice ideas of rerouting to b4 and taking this pawn over here. So this is a nice move to have. He goes here, counter-attacking me, and I should have just played bishop b4 straight away, but I decided to just take the pawn and then take the rook, because now I'm just up a clean exchange. And then he makes his final deathly mistake with playing knight b5, and I don't really understand knight b5, so I suppose the idea was to try and reroute this way, but it was just a really slow plan. Like, he needed to play something more in the middle of the board, but you know, he realized that after. I mean, a lot of my plans were not so good either, but this did lose the game. Because now I have rook e7, and after his knight comes here, I take the pawn, and after the knight gets into f3, I go rook a7 here, and the idea of this is that he has no checks back here, and I offer to trade off the rooks, and I also distance the rooks away from the king so that I'm threatening to checkmate him on the back 2 ranks. He then goes rook h5 here, and I have a really nice finish here by playing h4. And now after he takes on h3, it's forced checkmate. I have rook g7. See, the problem is immediately if I go here, he has rook f5, and yes, this is still winning, but it's not going to be checkmate because he can block with the rook. But now I have a nice check to force the king either to the f file, where now I can go here and he can't bring his rook over here to defend. Or if he goes to h8, same thing happens where he can't bring his rook to defend. And then it's going to be checkmate on the next move, and I win the game. Yay! This is my best over the board win yet, so I'm so happy. I mean, obviously it was far from perfect, but yeah, this is so exciting. I beat a 2100 elo, which is like, you know, that's no joke. Like, they're very good players, and my opponent was clearly a very strong player as well. In my opinion, he played well. I think anytime that somebody loses, people always think that they play poorly for their rating. It's just like, you know, at a certain rating, you know, unless you're a GM, you're either going to have good games or bad games, or, you know, you're not going to see anything. There's reasons why they're not 2500, not 2600, so they're going to miss things. What does chess.com estimate for your ratings? Ooh, I don't know. How do I check that? Ooh, it said I played like 2000 elo and my opponent played like 1900 elo. So you guys were right. I guess you did play poorly. I hope you guys enjoyed this little recap, and I'll see you all from the chessboard tonight. Woo!